Hey everybody, this is Jorge from Team JPS, just doing another quick review of Mare of Easttown, episode 5. This one's name Illusions. Quick synopsis of this is in her meditated therapy, Mare opens up about her family history with mental health. Lori tries to get to the bottom of her son's outburst at school. Mare meets with a semi-retired source to help find a possible connection to her three cases. This episode was just but not like bonkers. That's the nicest way I can put it. I'm kind of going to go through the entire episode, just reading through some of the notes that I took. But overall, this episode closed a lot of questions, but then opened up so many more. So we'll start from the beginning. This episode starts off with basically what I'll call a blackout. There was basically a car accident where someone died. I always forget the cop's name, but there's that new rookie cop who can't deal with seeing blood. Like, I don't know why he's on the force. Like that dude is just hilarious. Um, from there, you kind of go into this scene where, due to the blackout, Frank ends up going over to Marv's house, and you kind of see Frank and Shaban have a really nice kind of father-daughter chat where he kind of expresses that he really hasn't checked in on her, and kind of takes her always being okay for granted. During that time, Marv is kind of looking through for for the turtle, I believe. Yes. And she runs into, I guess she goes into Shaban's room and she kind of notices that she's been making this video, and she plays like a little clip of it, where it's her son's birthday, which definitely affects her a lot. And you'll kind of see that near the end of this episode. Um, from there, it kind of goes into uh, Marv kind of going into her therapy session, and they kind of start talking about depression and all this, and that Marv actually opens up and talks about how her dad committed suicide, and she's wondering if it's something that's, I guess, something you can pass down, and something that you can basically just give on to your kids or your kids' kids. And that is something that she, it's kind of freaking out a little bit about. From there, basically, Dylan and his girlfriend, or Dylan, I'm sorry, and his girlfriend have a talk, and it's very interesting. So they're talking about how his parents want to, keep the baby, even though it's not theirs, DJ, and then, um, I guess they kind of get into this little argument where she basically starts asking him, like, where were you on that night where she died? And it was very intriguing because he was like, "Oh, I was, I must have been feeding the baby." And she was like, "No, you weren't, because I went down." And then he's like, "Well, I was outside." And she's like, "No, you weren't, because I walked outside." Basically just calling him on his lies. And he kind of got flustered and then basically just told her to just get out, like just to basically peace on out of there, which I thought was interesting. And that, we'll kind of see a little bit more into that here shortly. But you kind of go into the scene where the girls are kind of held hostage. Um and it's very surreal. So you see Katie just kind of taking care of the new girl that entered. And obviously she's kind of going through a little bit of withdrawals, but she starts opening up to her of how, she's been there for a while. The part that I found so insane, so she says that he shouldn't hurt us like the first night, and then she tells her that it's Friday and he has poker night, and he'll basically just come upstairs and tie them up so they won't make any noise. And just how she was so calm about it, almost like if that was her new life, like her new normal. And it has been for years, but it's very sad just seeing her kind of just, almost shrug it off. From there, it kind of jumps real quick into a scene with Marv and this new person, Tam, who I guess is just a former, call girl, of sorts. And, Marv starts showing her some of the pictures, and Tam actually recognizes one of them, even though that it's not kind of like around the blocks where she hangs out with. From there, it was very interesting because immediately my first thought was Tam's gonna get killed. She's gonna end up asking questions somewhere, and boom. Next thing you know, she's done. Um, but from there, you kind of go into like this really heartbreaking scene. You kind of go into this lunchroom scene where you kind of see these bullies just messing with one of the girls that has Down syndrome, and just just being cruel to them for or to her for no reason. um Luckily, Ryan, who's obviously dealing with a lot, that's Laurie's son. He basically just kind of gets fed up and starts beating the crap out of this guy with a lunch tray, which I loved. Like, that was just such a high five moment for me, because you can just tell there was so much rage there. From there, Laurie picks him up from school and starts talking to him, and he kind of breaks down and lets her know that, yeah, like, dad's cheating on you again with the same girl. Which is kind of hard, because you never want to put that on a kid to, like, hold on to that. um so that, I thought that was a kind of an interesting, kind of take on that. From there, which I thought was probably, at least for me, the funniest scene of this series so far. It's I guess the after funeral scene where they're kind of all hanging out at the lady who died in the very first minute of the episode, due to the car crash into the light post. But the husband's there and he's trying to get everyone's attention, and he literally just goes, I've been wanting to tell her this, but now I can't, so I just need to get this off my chest. And he straight up had an affair with Marv's mom. And I have never throughout this whole series seen Marv just happy and joyful. And seeing her laugh and seeing the joy she was getting out of her mom, A, feeling embarrassed, and B, like, having an affair with this guy, it was just so, it was hilarious. Like, the joy that she was getting by just laughing, like, it was so intoxicating. And it almost makes you wonder if that's how Marv used to be before kind of everything sour happened in her life. But from there, you kind of jump over to a scene with Dylan and I forgot what the girl's name is, but they kind of are talking about, the girl, the information she gave Marv in regards to um the journals and all that. So they kind of start talking about it, and she told them that she told Marv that the journals were, in the dresser when they really weren't there at all. So this, I think, is kind of where the rest of the final few episodes are kind of going to start turning towards. But you now have them all three. They, which I find interesting, how this house isn't like boarded up, with the husband or the dad being in jail and the daughter now dead. But you see them entering the house, and with flashlights, just kind of going through it, and they go into her room, and they end up getting the journals. One of the things which I thought was so heartbreaking is you can tell that you know she's been kind of doing that website, like the almost like an escort type website. You can tell she's been doing that for a while, because Dylan, while he was getting all the journals out, he did find an envelope that said DJ's ear surgery money, and there was obviously a lot of money in there. So it's very sad that you kind of see the lengths that she was willing to go just to provide her son with ear surgery. But from there, they end up burning all the journals. There was a card of some sort, and you obviously don't see it, but the girl ends up pocketing it, which I thought was interesting. So I'm guessing that's going to be something that she's going to end up giving to either Marv, or something will happen from there. But it, it's very intriguing, because the more you kind of see that story arc, the more you kind of can tell that it could have been one of those three that ended up killing the girl, instead of it, being originally who we thought it would be, which was whoever kidnapped Katie in the beginning, of the show. From here, you kind of go into, I guess, the best way I can explain it is trying to make you feel bad for the priest. So the priest goes and picks up some food, and these guys basically just beat the crap out of him for, I think one of the comments was, we heard you found a new altar girl. The big reveal here though is, when Father Dan and him just kind of start talking in the room, the priest basically confesses to Dan that he was with her that night, that she asked to basically go to that one part of town where all the escorts kind of were hanging out. And he confesses all this to the father, and then he also tells him how he had her bike in the car with him. And all the father could say was basically like, "Why didn't you tell this to the cops?" And you kind of get this sense that the priest basically had nowhere to go, because he's like, I have previous allegations on me. I was with her that night. He's like I was scared, basically. The interesting part about that was that, the Father Dan basically asked him, like, well, did you kill her? Like, or he just said, well, what did you do with her? And the thing that I thought was interesting was he basically just replied back and said, if I told you no, would you believe me? And it kind of cuts off from there, which is very interesting. So, he still is up there as as a suspect, but I honestly do believe that now, after seeing everything that happened with the other three kids, I don't think that the priest ended up doing anything, like to murder her. Could he have had an inappropriate relationship? Probably, but in terms of murdering her, I don't think so. From here you kind of jump into like these final 10-15 minutes of the episode, which was, you could have made a whole episode just from that. So basically, Tam, who Marv ended up meeting earlier in the diner, ends up contacting Marv again, letting her know that she found someone. From there, Tam ended up, the girl that she found ended up kind of telling Marv and Zabel all this story about, how she almost got caught. She was able to escape, and she got some of the plates from the car that kind of kidnapped her. Zabel was able to use his connections to kind of get that. And then here, Zabel and Marv have a really weird scene where Zabel ends up kissing her, and basically just telling Marv, like, you don't know what I'm looking for. Right when that happens, he does get a phone call, in regards to, they found, I think it was like 5 different work vans that it could have been. So from there, him and Marv start going to these houses, trying to find out at the end of the day, like, if any of these people are it. They go to the first, I think, 2 houses, and obviously it's not them. One of them was like a cleaning lady, and the other one, it was like her husband who died a few years ago. And then they go to the third house, and this is where everything kind of just blasts open. So as soon as this happens, they enter the house. They start talking with the guy. One of the things that the informant that Tam, brought over to Marv, told her was that the gentleman smoked Winston cigarettes, and they found a packet of Winston cigarettes there, which instantly like triggered their spidey senses. Likewise, the girls that were kind of like held hostage started making noise, and I believe it was Katie who looked at her and said, there's someone in the house, but we're not locked up, so he wasn't expecting them. And they started banging on the pipes. Once that happened, obviously the tone in the conversation got really awkward. As soon as all that happened, what you end up seeing is, I think Zabel, because the guy kept asking, like, what is this for? What is this for? As soon as that all happened, you literally see Zabel basically telling him, like, hey, this is, and before he can say anything, the guy ends up shooting Zabel. And from the looks of it, it looks like he shoots him in the head, and, it sucks because Evan Peters, I really enjoyed his character, but he's dead. Marv starts like kind of running throughout the whole place. She ends up seeing the 2 girls, telling them to be quiet, and she kind of figures out a way of tricking this guy, and luckily runs basically back downstairs just in time to shoot him multiple times. while she was upstairs and she saw the girls, she did end up, I'm guessing, texting the sergeant or the captain, basically letting them know officer down, and she gave the address. The scene basically ends, which is really heartbreaking, with obviously I think Marv, with during the shooting or something, her hand was just completely bloody, and it wasn't, you couldn't really tell if she got shot or if it was just, when she started running away from it, if she just got cut up with something. But you see her laying at the door. Obviously, she shot the guy. I think like she emptied out the clip on that dude. But she starts hearing the video that Shaban made of her late son who ended up, killing himself. And it kind of, the screen just kind of goes to black there. Which is very intense, just the way it ends. So I'm very curious to see what will happen next week because I know there's not that many episodes left. Um, and I guess from here it's kind of interesting because you're gonna see that reunion between Katie and her mom. And I think that's just gonna be a very beautiful scene in, next week's episode. But those Dylan and his friends kind of just figuring out what all happened there with them and Katie, and uh, at the end of the day it's like, did they kill her or not? It would be nice, I guess, in a weird way, if they did end up killing her, because then at least like the father got some type of, um I guess, just closure. Like at least he tried to, an eye for an eye type of situation, which isn't right, but I can kind of see it that way. But you do still have a lot of loose ends here. One being, like, who's the father of the baby? That's still out there. The other one being, who killed Katie? And then last but not least, it's, what's gonna happen with Zabel? Like, is he dead, alive? So it's gonna be very intriguing to see what happens, and how they close this out with the final few episodes. I think there's only two more left, so it's a big storyline to try to close up in a short time. But anyways, that's kind of it from top to bottom. Overall, I thought this episode, it was pretty good. It gave you a lot of meat to it. Overall, I'll probably rate it, probably like an 8. The final, I'll say 10 minutes was easily like 9, 9.5, just with the intensity of it. But overall, this episode was just a solid 8. And yeah, definitely would love to hear what you guys think about it. Who you guys think, or what you guys think happened to Katie, and how she died. But yeah, as always, like, subscribe, follow us on our social media. But other than that, that's all I got. So this is Jorge from JVS, and I'll see you next time. Peace.